Hey, good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday, 7:15 a.m. Price of Bitcoin currently at 66.89. All right, so I'm going to go through the small time frames and then the large, and then we'll look at the macro market picture of what's happening in the stock markets in the US and around the world. So that'll give us a good idea of what to anticipate for Bitcoin. Okay, so first things first, all right, folks, what we're really seeing right now is this nice ascending parallel channel that Bitcoin has been moving in. Okay, so I think at present moment, okay, remember yesterday I mentioned that around this red box, when we were way down here when I made the video, that would be the area where I could see us scam wicking into, okay? But I was hoping that once we scam wick, we kind of fall, continually further. But that's actually not what happened, right? What we really did was hit there, came back, put in a higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, and just kept moving on up, okay? So we've pretty much grinded through this red box right here, which was supposed to be resistance because that was this little consolidation period before we sold up. So this could now be stated that this is now support, okay? And so we should be expecting higher prices. Now you're probably wondering, okay, how high? Well, I'd probably say first things first, at the very least, to this high right here, the one we put in a few days ago, 69.50 or so. So that'd be about a good, $225 target or so, or $275 target from where we are right now up to that high. Okay. Reason being because we've pretty much broken out of all descending channels and trend lines. Like, for example, this was the channel that we were in, broke out of that, broke up through, smashed through this area of liquidity for short liquidity, broke above this area of short liquidity, and now we're breaking above this consolidation as well. So when the chart is basically showing you that it's showing strength or weakness on either direction, it sort of behooves us to pay attention and take the chart at face value instead of injecting our own bias, okay? Even though my bias overall is still short biased, all right, I still do believe at some point we need to come back down here at the very least, or go down further. That doesn't mean I'm going to just keep shorting every move back up, okay? So yesterday, we were actually in a short, I think from here down, okay? So we took some profit down here, and then I placed my stop just above this area around 6,000, and then this candle blew through my stop, and then we had just continuous movement up and down through that, okay? So we took a quick long in this area as well, I think in a scalp just yesterday. So 62.72 was my entry, 63.65 was my exit. So again, I'm not really looking for any large movements when I'm taking longs because overall, it's very difficult and choppy to trade in this market unless you have some deep stops set, unless you're, I guess, ready and willing to go through this kind of, crazy intense chop that we've been seeing. Okay, so sometimes in markets you have to accept that the dynamics of the markets have kind of changed, right? And it's okay to play the market as is and take what you can get. Okay, so never put pressure on yourself that you have to get X amount of money or X amount of percent, every day or every month or whatever. Okay, remember that markets are dynamic, and more often than not, yes, they'll give you good opportunities, but not every opportunity will be the same. Sometimes you might just have a day where you can walk away with 0.3% profit, and some days you might walk away with a nice, 15% profit. Okay, so point is, we take what we can get, even a small, no leverage, 2.45% net profit, and then last night I got stopped in a short with a 3.2% loss right here. Okay, basically what I was aiming for was, if you look on this Coinbase chart. All right, so if you look at this descending trend line that's coming, I want to show you guys where it comes from. Okay, it comes from this top lower high, way, the big drop down way down here. Okay, and then we come back to that area. So if we draw a trend line, it actually touches that perfectly. So while we were here yesterday, all right, I put in a buy, I think around this area somewhere, and I said that, okay, I'm going to keep my stop around 64.20 or so. Unfortunately, we wicked down a little bit further and then pushed back up, okay? So even though I was right in terms of its direction, all right? It doesn't mean anything because I got stopped out. You know, my stop was a little too tight. So, you know, obviously, like I said, in this market, you have to be able to accept that you're going to have wider stops and smaller positions. Okay, that's just the way of the market right now, right? So point is, you know, I still do believe that we're going to have potentially another push up from here. But remember, wait for the confirmation. Maybe let this candle just bottom out. We are, you know, turning this area right here that was previous resistance now into support, hopefully, and we push back up like this. And so you could take a long, you know, based on that and place your stop down here around 65.25 or way down here around $6,400. Okay. However you want to play that, you know, I personally think that you could have a good opportunity for a long. Alternatively, you know, one could make the argument that, hey, maybe we're creating, you know, a head and shoulders like this, right? Even though the head is not really created just yet, but it's very possible where we start creating the head like that. Okay. So do be careful on that as well. All right. Now, if we start going out to the 4 hour, you know, this is where things also get interesting. All right. Let me turn on the pivots here. Okay. So if you look over here, we're above the 4 hour pivot and we're very close to the R1, which is right around 7,045. Okay. Usually, it's not always, but usually, you know, when you kind of break and hold above a pivot, chances are pretty high that you can get to the R1 at least. Okay, at least the R1. Sometimes you can get to the R2 and R3, but you're guaranteed a higher percentage that you could get to the R1. Okay, now I can't, you know, predict some person out there or, you know, entity who is looking at other levels and front runs that R1 and then sells, you know, just before we get to the R1, like let's just say where we are right now. Okay, no way for me to predict that, right? So point is, you know, if you're looking for longs, you could target that R1. If not, you know, if you're looking for shorts, you can start building your short position all the way up towards that R1, place your stop somewhere up here above that R1, and then ride this thing down, okay? I still think that, you know, if this is, let's just say, if we're going as per Elliott waves, right, you know, this could be your 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 5 could be coming up, okay? So I think we finished our 4. I think we're working on our 5, okay? Alternatively, you know, it could also be like this, where it could be a 1, 2, 3, quick 4, 5, okay? And then now we're in an ABC corrective count, right? So, you know, this could be your A. Oh, this one goes lower, so this could be your A. This could be your B. And then the C is about to stretch down, you know, maybe towards the 61.8, 65% area, that golden pocket area. Okay, so that takes us around $5,300 and some change here and there. Okay, so that's another alternative count that, you know, we can look out for. Okay, where do I think we are? I personally think that we're in the middle of this particular impulsive count, but I think it's more so like this right now, just given the way things are looking bullish. If we stop just before it, let's just say we start pulling back down again, I'd probably say I feel more confident that it was the previous ABC that I drew, okay? And so if we start looking, you know, as per the ABC counts, right, and we start throwing on, say, the high volume, I'm sorry, the VPVR, okay? So this is kind of how we can look at it, okay? So we're over here, right? Price action, we bounced off, okay? We bounced off a high volume node right there, okay? So that's a positive sign that we, you know, bounced off that, right? Now price is right around this particular area, 66.50, struggling to get above this high volume node. If it does, we can reach towards this high volume node around 73.15 or so, okay? And the higher volume node above that is way up here around 8,150, okay? I think it's gonna be much bigger of a struggle around 8,150. Reason being because we have this consolidation right here, you know, 2-3 weeks ago before we had this big drop. So I'd figure that, you know, with this big drop, because this was such a big inefficiency gap of buyers and sellers, I think it's much easier to push this price back up into that same area where we consolidated under and then start selling off some more. Okay, so that's kind of my thought process on that is this might be the max area that we get to. Okay, or actually, you know what? That's kind of interesting because the high of this is around 8,200. And that makes sense because this high volume node is right around the 8,150, 8,200 area. So you know what, I take that back. I bet you we can get up here, okay, because that matches that high volume node as well as, you know, the consolidation here on the 4-hour. So high volume node on the 2-day chart right there, okay, and then consolidation on the 4-hour. So that's a good amount of confluence for us to, you know, potentially drop down from here. And let me see if we can find maybe some pivots around that area too. You know, I guess we're somewhere in the middle between the R2 and the R1. So nothing really, you know, as per pivots per se, but I do believe that, you know, it would be interesting to kind of come up to this area around 8150, maybe 8,000 max, and then drop down. Okay. Let me see here. I guess, let me see. I want to check something out, which is, I want to see what kind of work we did in this particular area. Okay. Let's go to fixed range and let's do some fixed range analysis here to here. And let's turn off this VPVR. So what we're looking at right now, folks, is, you know, where was the highest volume transacted in this consolidation period before we moved up? Okay, and that's important because this is probably where a lot of the, you know, bull bear flips should happen, right? And so that's around, if you look at that red line right there, that's around $7,200. Okay, so that also matches with, you know, the high volume node that I just showed you earlier. And remember, the VPVR takes into account this right here, takes into account this entire price history. The fixed range that I just put on right there, that takes into account just this 6 weeks of, you know, sideways movement before we pushed up. So VPVR looks at everything, you know, in this and then does a relative, you know, transaction of volume in all these different areas. Okay, so that kind of tells us that, you know, in this particular area right here, $7,200 and some change, there's a good amount of, you know, volume that was transacted. So I'm glad that matches up. Okay. Now, if we start looking at the daily pivots, all right, so let's go over here. Let's throw on those pivots. Ah, crap. Okay, 1 second. All right, so let's throw on those pivots. All right. And let me turn out the historical ones. Okay, so we basically bounce off the S4, you know, on the daily chart, right? Pretty obvious. Okay, now we're climbing, or trying to climb above the S1. Okay, and then the S2 is right there around $7,800 or so. Again, at $7,800, that area matches this particular range, which is the consolidation. So now we have 3 different ways with 3 different SR levels, volume profile indicators, you know, as well as the VPVR that we turned on, and the pivots. We understand that there's 3 different ways to look at, you know, confluence of this $7,800 to $7,900 area. Okay, so this could be the area that we kind of top off and then push back down for another leg. Now, you know, if we top off, the question is, are we going to put in a lower low? Like, are we going to go like this and then go back down? That's hard to say. Okay, then we're gonna have to take it 1 level at a time. And when we take it 1 level at a time, we have to see when we push back up from here, are we going to come back to this area? You know, let's just say 5,000 at most and then push back up, because then you can make the argument that we're in a larger impulsive wave count, like 1, 2, and we could be in a bigger 3 coming up. Okay, but in my experience, okay, when you have such a significant drop like this, rarely do you kind of just go like this and just start rocketing up. Even if it's, you know, let's just say something like this, and, you know, do you do something like that? It's uncommon, okay? It's not impossible, it's just slightly uncommon, right? So with that being said, you know, I would probably say at the very least, you know, let's just say we do something like this, and then we go up to here, and then we come back all the way down to maybe, you know, 4,000, somewhere around there. maybe double bottom over the next, few weeks, and then start pushing back up. Okay, that's personally how I would look at it. All right. Also, it could be very possible that we do something like this, put in that, potentially lower low, maybe create, an inverse head and shoulders, and then start moving up. And that would be more characteristic of BTC because Bitcoin loves putting in inverse head and shoulders in bottoms being created. Like, for example, this was a nice inverse head and shoulders, like left shoulder, head, right shoulder, and then pushes up. Even over here in 2018, obviously a crazy looking inverse head and shoulders, but left shoulder, head, maybe a drawn out right shoulder, and then boom, pushes back up. Okay. So in terms of Bitcoin's characteristics, I would not be surprised if we, do something like this, boom, boom, go down here further, then push up, and then start taking off maybe around May, June, July, somewhere around that time. And who knows, maybe by then, we have some of these macro market issues resolved, which is, the liquidity crisis that we're facing in the US, the whole unlimited QE maybe starts to take into effect. Now remember that for those of you who are in the US, the unlimited QE doesn't really have anything to do with crypto. Okay, crypto itself, because it's a speculative asset class, it benefits off overall the market being bullish. All right. Now remember, if you look at the market, right, for the last 10 years, okay, overall the market has been, on a 10-year bull run. This is basically when Bitcoin was created, right around this area, right? So when Bitcoin was created around this area, it was fortunate enough to ride the coattails of a 10-year bull market. And remember, especially, that of the US, because the US generates a majority of the volume for BTC, whether you want to accept it or not. Okay. So, when we're looking at S&P 500 potentially still looking bearish and not showing any real confirmations of, hey, we could have maybe another leg down. If we have another leg down in the stock markets, undoubtedly BTC will probably put in, at the very least a higher low, at the very most maybe a lower low as per this swing around $3,600. Okay. Now the global markets obviously yesterday, or today rather, they all shot up. Okay. But we've seen green days like this, right? We've seen green days where we have bounce backs, 5-7% days in the markets, but then usually the following day or the following week, we still, go off into the red. So it's just something to be careful about, in terms of the market. All right. I'm personally of the opinion that this unlimited QE is going to come bite us in the ass much later on, but that's, sort of a story for another day. Okay. Now on the CryptoSomniac page, one thing I wanted to mention is, I like Joel right here. He puts on great statistics for Bitcoin. Okay, so here's one thing. Okay, so what he did was he said, Bitcoin having a daily gain of 10% more. What does that mean for the following day? All right. So for the most part, over here with a positive day of 10% or more, which is actually what Bitcoin had, right? Yesterday, Bitcoin put in from top to bottom, or I'm sorry, bottom to top, from bottom to top, it put in almost a 17% day, but from open to close, it still put in about 12%, okay, for the day in this yesterday's daily candle. So if yesterday's daily candle was about, let's just say 12%, how has Bitcoin fared historically over the next day? Okay, so Joel says that positive frequency, meaning that the next day being positive has a 40% chance, okay? And the next day being negative or neutral, obviously has a 60% chance. So there's a statistically higher chance that today is either a flat day or a negative day coming up, okay? So what I'm waiting for is, maybe if we have a pullback, let's just say today, right? Hopefully tomorrow we can, or I guess today when we have a pullback, hopefully we get into nice levels for long and then hope for a positive day tomorrow towards those levels I was talking about, which is up here. Okay. And that'd be kind of interesting because if you are someone who follows the TD sequential, Okay, so we're actually in a green 7. So if tomorrow we get, you know, nice pullback of a green 8, you know, a red 9, or I'm sorry, a green 9 would be perfect to smash up into this area, which would be a, you know, nice big bullish candle. Okay, and so that would kind of make things really exciting in terms of positioning yourselves, you know, long. Okay. So that's kind of my thoughts right now. Is I think, you know, price action is going to be really wild today, especially with the stock market, you know, opening up, probably limit up and probably very positive. Um, you know, Bitcoin has, for the last few days, has not really been correlating with the stock market that well. So that's, I guess, you know, another positive sign for us. It's kind of just doing its own thing. But remember that, you know, overall, in terms of market structure, this market structure right here, it is still overall down. Okay, it's kind of undeniable that we've pretty much dropped off. You know, let's just say we did it from the top right here to where we are today. We're still down about 37–38%. Okay, obviously, you know, 2–3 weeks ago we were down almost 66% to that low. So we've climbed up, you know, about half the drop of, you know, from this top to this bottom. Okay, so that's, again, a positive sign. All right, so I'll be letting my community know again, you know, what I'm going to do. If you guys are interested, come join CryptoSomniac. Hit the products page right there. Hit the Advantage subscription, and you can see, you know, what kind of trades we take on. You know, what kind of way we do our analysis. I even let our community members know, for those, you know, in the Europe and Euro and Asia sessions, that if you see and you wait, let's just say a 1 hour, 4 hour candle above this area right here, all right? So above this area, when you smash down through right here, this could have been your entry for a long right here. And you'd be up, you know, at least right now, you'd be up $40–50, but at the very high, you were up almost, you know, $200 up here from this move, okay? So even if, you know, I'm asleep during the night, I let my Advantage community members know exactly what I'm doing, what I'm looking at, and also I make evening videos like this so people know exactly what to look out for, okay? So if you're interested in something like that, and on top of that, you're interested in how US equities are traded, or Faisal, our resident analyst, does this kind of analysis and lets you guys know exactly what he's seeing, you know, come join CryptoSomniac, folks, all right? So the price you're paying for this, more than I think, is worth what you're getting in terms of value for live equity updates, weekly videos on equities analysis, daily videos like you're seeing right now, plus, you know, 2-a-day analysis for Advantage members like this, where you get 2 videos a day and multiple updates through the day, as well as multiple trades through the day. And on top of that, like I've said before, we're opening up Forex options in oil starting April. So come join before we hike up the prices, because if you do come join now, you will be grandfathered in to a lower rate, okay, which is this $97 per month, versus when we hike up the prices. All right, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for joining, and give me a thumbs up if you enjoy my content. Let me know your strategy and your insight in the markets, and I'll catch up with you all soon. Cheers.